the April 25th, 2024 meeting of the Parker Planning Commission to order at 7 p.m. Would you please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. Absent is Eric Franzen, and seated for Eric is Eric Rieger. And filling in on the vacant seat is Jane. Angela is absent. Next, are there any additions to or deletions from the agenda?
No, sir, there are not.
Thanks, Bryce. Approval of minutes. We have the minutes from the April 11th Planning Commission meeting. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Do we have a motion to approve?
I move we approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes from April 11th.
I second.
It's been moved by Ruth Ann, seconded by Leland, that we approve the minutes from the April 11th Planning Commission meeting. I will call the question. Nick?
Aye.
Ileana?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Leland?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Chair is aye. It passes unanimously. All right. Next item, 7A, is a bill for an ordinance to repeal Title 13 of the Parker Municipal Code, except sections 13.04.010 through 13.04.030, sections 13.04.050 through 13.04.165, section 13.04.180, and sections 13.04.270 through 13.04.300, and to reenact Title 13 of the Parker Municipal Code, except sections 13.04.010 through 13.04.21. And we will open the public hearing at 7:02.
Took you that long just to read it.
Just to read it. All right. And we're all yours. Mary, Stacy,
Great.
Don.
Thank you, and good evening, Chair and Commissioners. We are thrilled to be here tonight after this multi-year project. So I'm here to present, actually all of us are here to present the Land Development Ordinance Adoption. I'm not going to repeat that long thing again, that title, but adoption of everything except for Chapter 1304 of the new LDO. But before I begin, I just want to acknowledge this wonderful project team I've got with me. So I want to thank our project consultant, Clarion and Associates, and I've got Don Elliott and Gabby Hart, who have spent countless hours and years with us on this. Stacy Nerger, Bryce Matthews, and our director, John Fusa. And then we've had a boatload of help from Parks and Rec, our engineering colleagues, and especially our legal team, Jim Maloney and Kelsey Hall. So I would be remiss if I didn't thank everybody for all of the support and getting us to this public hearing tonight. So anyway, with that, I'm going to pass it over to Don and Gabby at the moment, and then I'll be back with you.
Okay.
All right, hang on a minute, if I can get the slide to change. Maybe you have a magic finger.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
There it
you.
goes. Okay. So thank you for having us again. We have had the pleasure of presenting pieces of this throughout the last several years. We thank you for your patience. I have said before, and I'll say it again tonight, your staff asked us to do this job in a very thoughtful way, where there were more than the usual number of drafts provided and then revised to make sure that staff had had a good chance to review it and make sure it's what they wanted to do for Parker. So this graphic you've seen before. We broke it into parts. There was phase one to set up a charter and kind of the expectations for the project. There is a phase two that was broken into three modules, each one of which had 2 staff drafts and then a public draft, each of which had revisions. And now we are near the end. We are at the end, subject to a motion from you if you think it is ready to be recommended for adoption, and then action by the town council. I will reiterate that we have had a lot of public outreach, public meetings at each one of the module public open houses. We've briefed you a number of times. We've briefed town council a number of times. The Let's Talk Parker website had a project page which has been visited 4,700 times during the 5 years that we've been working on this. So this is not something the public has either been unaware of or one that they've been uninterested in. They have been interested in. They have been following this as they've gone along, and I think it's fair to say they're well-versed in what's been done to modernize the code. And, of course, at every stage, we now have a green circle around the adoption process because that's where we are right now. So, again, I will reiterate in layman's language the motion that the chair just read. This action tonight is to repeal the current LDO except for certain sections. I paraphrased them here. It's mostly 13 and 04, but the motion is very specific. You read the exact sections, which is what legal wants to have exempted from the adoption because that's going to be the topic if you look at the last bullet down at the bottom. The new zoning districts, the definitions and the lot parameters of the new zoning districts and building parameters are going to be the subject of working through a new zoning map over the next coming months. And when that map is ready so that the public can understand, here's the menu of zoning districts and here's exactly where they would apply, that piece will come forward. So what's before you tonight is everything except that piece. I will comment in passing that you did receive a letter from CORE about the setback issues, and I'm going to address that now rather than moving on, your energy provider. A year ago, you adopted a new utility ordinance, so the utility work has been done. This code, the letter you've received deals with sections of the code that are not before you for adoption tonight. Those have to do with setbacks that will be part of the part that will come forward as the mapping comes forward. So that is not part of what you're going to be acting on or being asked to discuss and act on tonight. So, the goals, obviously, from the very start have been to try to implement your Parker 2035 master plan. That is why we do what we do, because zoning and development and subdivision regulations are one of the most powerful ways to help the town turn out the way you want it to add predictability and transparency to the process, to try to enhance development standards and quality, to straighten out, to bring a lot of the development standards into the code, but cross-reference the others and just make it much easier to understand what levels of quality are required to develop in Parker, and in some cases to add some more flexibility so you could get innovative design while keeping the quality standards high. And then try to reflect best practices in a number of areas. And with that, I'm going to turn it, well, I'll do one more slide. So the code's been reorganized into 9 chapters. Some of the main topics, I'm going to turn over to Gabby in a minute to do the details, but main topics include trying to emphasize and up the bar on sustainable development, hillside, streams, visually significant ridgelines, things that matter to the citizens of the town in terms of living in just a wonderful place that integrates and respects nature. Try to make sure that common terminology and terminology that's understandable to citizens is used consistently throughout. And then, as I just said a minute ago, to try to embody and codify and simplify and rationalize the quality standards in the ordinance. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Gabby, talk about a few specific things. There you go.
Thank you. Great. Thank you, Don. So there are 3 themes of our key improvements that we wanted to highlight for you all. First is the improved formatting and graphics throughout the code. This is just one example on the left of many of the summary tables that we've added. Right now, the code is a lot of words, a lot of text, and hard to read, and so oftentimes we can summarize some of that information in a much easier to read and more fun to look at table. So the development procedures table is shown here, but some of the other examples of that are the table of allowed uses, the parking table. All of those are just a much more user-friendly way to organize information. And then in addition to summary tables, there are a variety of new graphics. Though it is not up for adoption tonight, when it comes back, each of those zoning districts has its own graphic that shows where different setbacks are measured from and just generally captures the character of that district. And then also there are what we call development standards graphics. So those are graphics that help explain some of the regulations, whether that's related to how wide a streetscape should be, or where a parking lot should be located, or landscaping requirements. Really just, again, trying to make it a more user-friendly document for both staff and applicants to use. The next theme is clearer and more predictable standards. So just a few highlights here. We've added standards for non-residential and mixed-use development that are near and adjacent to lower density residential development as a way of transitioning kind of the intensity and scale of those things, with a step-down requirement with their height. Within the landscaping section, we know that high-quality landscaping is very important in Parker. So we kept that promotion of high-quality landscape, but then we also added some flexibility in there for unique approaches. For electric vehicle charging stations, we have aligned those standards with state regulations. Earlier on in this process with this group, we did have a good amount of conversation about electric vehicle charging requirements, and we have aligned it with the state and the state's priorities since they have, since we talked about it, published their own standards. We also added standards for LED signs and modernized the lighting code with lighting efficiency standards, and then updated the parking standards to provide better predictability for development. And then the final theme is clearer and more efficient procedures. So again, this is an example of the development review procedures table. And so really trying to simplify the process for applicants who are trying to figure out what process that their application will go through. So are they going to need to do a pre-application meeting? Will they need a neighborhood meeting? And then who actually makes the decision? And will there be a public hearing? Also some highlights from the procedural content. And we've introduced and formalized neighborhood meeting requirements for larger development proposals. And then we also have shifted the decision-making authority for minor development plats from council to being an administrative approval. And minor development plats are any plat related to non-residential or multifamily development, or 4 or less single-family residential lots. We've also added a new process that replaces the sketch and preliminary site plan requirements currently. That is also an administrative process, so really trying to give staff more discretion with administrative approvals. And in addition to that, there are new administrative allowances, and so those are the ability for staff to modify some minor requirements, things like maybe a 10% increase in setbacks or a 5% variation in height. They're clearly defined of what staff has the ability to modify and to what extent. And those are related to base zoning districts, not to PDs. So that's where administrative allowances would be applied. In addition to the LDO itself, there is an LDO administrative manual, and this manual will be adopted alongside of the LDO. And so what this is it includes all of the submittal requirements for every type of application that can be submitted to the town. And then it also gathers all of the different resources that applicants might need, such as the fee schedule, links to the master plan, and other design standards and engineering documents. And so again, that will be adopted by reference with this LDO. So in conclusion, in addition to the overarching implementation of the master plan, this LDO allows for improved development standards, more predictable development outcomes and processes, better and more transparent definitions, easier to understand and user-friendly graphics, greater clarity, and then ease of use in general for the public.
And with that, staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend that Town Council approve the proposed ordinance adopting the Land Development Ordinance. And so that concludes the presentation, and the project team is all here for questions. Thank you.
Questions for, oh, yeah, that's right. Questions for the team?
More of a comment? Mary, as I mentioned, I read it because I've been on medical leave.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Happy reading.
And I have to say, Bryce reminded me 2018 was when this started. And I guess it feels like it was that long ago, but it doesn't, because progress. And yes, you had setbacks, but progress. And in reading it, I kept highlighting it. My tablet lets you highlight, then you can go back. And I'm like, okay, do I understand this? Can I embrace this? And I'm not a developer, but I've built a home. I know what that feels like. And I want to say that, you know, full disclosure for me, I understood it. I love the charts. I love graphics. I like to read, but I love graphics. I found it raised the level of our standards. Honestly, just it did. And it has, and it will continue to move this forward long after I'm done serving here. And I think from my perspective, as you look forward into the growth and what as Parker continues to move in the direction of growth, this is a key component to that. So kudos to you guys. Again, I read it and I'm like, okay, I get this, I do. So thank you for your hard work, and it does take a lot of time. And it's nice to have you back in the room, Jim. It's been a while, so welcome back. I know you started this, so thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you.
I just had a couple of quick questions. One is, what is the estimated time frame for the zoning map part of the process?
We hope to be back in front of you folks sometime later this summer.
Okay, so it's not like a year or more away, it's fairly soon?
No, we are trying to achieve that replacement zoning map this year.
Okay, great.
So we're still in the process of working on it.
So how does the new LDO work in absence of a new map? Just in the few months interim?
So the zoning part of the LDO, that section will not be reenacted until the replacement zoning map is. So as the title states on your staff report, what was read into the record, it accepts that Chapter 1304, basically.
So until that happens, your current zoning map stays in effect, and your current zones stay in effect, but the standards in the new code will apply.
So the standards apply to the old zoning for the next several months?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I just had a quick question. So I know this has been a long, arduous process. Is there any thought as far as the next iteration on LEO? Is that on the roadmap, or where are we looking at that?
The next update
Yeah.
iteration? No, we're we're just happy. We're just happy to be here tonight. This was the first comprehensive update in 40 years. So, but with any planning document, code included, the day after adoption, you'll find tweaks that we may be coming back to you with. So Always amendments. Don?
Yeah, if I could just say, and I am not in charge of what happens next at all. Most of the folks we work with, and we work all over the country on this, decide that they don't want to try to do this again after 40 years of just patchwork amendments. And so usually people come up with a schedule by which you try to keep it up to date. And then you don't have to hire consultants because the things that you need to fix will be things that staff has identified or legal's identified or somebody has identified. But if you and that's good. It means that it's a living document, that it gets updated periodically, and you don't wind up in the situation that you're. But many cities, we rewrote the code for Philadelphia, and they hadn't had it done since 1958. But since then, they try to keep it current by doing that, and I suspect there'll be an effort to do that. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. Because most planning documents, we do try to get under the hood and update them. So I think with the LDO amendments are probably more frequent. So.
Thank you.
My question was answered on the timeframe of the new map, so thank you for that. But tremendous job. Again, I read through it as well. All the graphics are great. It reads much easier. The tables and everything like that, I'm a big fan of. So thanks so much for your hard work.
Can I ask a question of town attorney? The use of the charts and the graphics and things like that, is that something that you've been seeing used in case law as it's been coming up for challenges to and court cases involving LDOs? I went to law school a long time ago, so they didn't have anything like this then. They had all that really hard language that, we got paid big bucks to interpret. So what's your experience or in the review of literature? What are you seeing with this?
Well, I think Don is probably the better one to address that. In terms of my experience, I have not seen any real litigation associated with graphics and charts as long as you had sufficient text. But Don, do you have anything to add?
No, Jim's right. It used to be, when I started a long time ago, that they had language like, well, the drawings are just drawings, but they don't really mean much. Or the charts are a summary, but you got to read the text to figure it out. That's no longer the case. You can put law in charts and tables and graphics and just say that. The setbacks are in a table. They're not listed in a list. But I'm not aware of any challenge to a code because they used a graphic or a chart to tell you what the law was rather than words.
Okay, thank you.
So.
Good question.
Other question?
Thank you guys so much. I know how much work you put into all this, the different meetings that I went that you were presenting to the public, a lot of work. I too read the 408 pages. My head hurt. If it was a hard drive, I think I would have ran out of space. But I really appreciate all the work that you've done, and I'm wholeheartedly for everything that's on it. One thing I did get impressed on was all the definitions. Mm-hmm. When I was reading through there, you guys didn't miss nothing. And so, again, I'm impressed, and thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add, I appreciate the town and trying to take into account the balance between quasi legislative review and layers of legalese, and being able to elevate the design guidelines for the town of Parker and still be flexible to developers and have that balance. If that means it doesn't come before the planning commission, that's better for the developer. But we also need to have that checks and balances, and I appreciate trying to make that balance in the real world and not just theoretically. So thank you for that.
All right, as this is a public hearing, we always open it up to the public to speak towards the matter that is before us tonight. If you wish to speak, step forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no public, we will. Are there any further questions for staff?
None from me.
Okay, we will close the public hearing at 7:24. Commissioner discussion, we kind of already had that in a way, but if anybody has anything to add?
No, I'm fully in favor of moving it forward.
Agree.
I'm good.
Agreed.
All right, do we have a motion?
I move the Planning Commission recommend Town Council repeal Title 13 of the Parker Municipal Code, except Sections 13.04.010 through 13.04.030, Sections 13.04.050 through 13.04.165, Section 13.04.180, and Sections 13.04.270 through 13.04.300, and reenact 13 of the Parker Municipal Code, except for sections 13.04.010 through 13.04.210. Am I done?
Yeah, I second that.
All right, it's been moved by Ileana, seconded by Ruth Ann. The Planning Commission recommend Town Council repeal Title 13 of the Park Municipal Code, except for sections noted in the report, and reenact Title 13 of the Park Municipal Code, except the sections noted in staff's report as well. I will call the question then. Nick?
Aye.
Ileana?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Leland?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Chair is aye, passes unanimously. Kudos.
Great job,
Ross,
guys.
thank you, though. Thank you.
All right, next, Bryce, any items for the committee?
Just, Mary was gracious enough to thank her team, but I wanted to return the favor and thank Mary for all her hard work on this project.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
That's all, Bryce?
I feel like we should be giving you a bouquet of roses or something at this point.
Or 5 bouquets of roses, perhaps?
Bingo, that is exactly what I was going to say. Many, many bouquets. Thank you, though. We appreciate your support.
Well, very good. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn? Eric's not here, so I don't know whether we can.
He's doing it from afar.
Yeah,
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
it's been moved by Ruth Ann, seconded by Nick, that we adjourn. We'll call the question. Nick?
Aye.
Ileana?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Leland?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Chair is aye. We are adjourned. Good night, all.